So, I figured I'd post a follow-up video to the Alpine iLX-407 now that I've owned it for a few weeks. I decided that I am actually going to return it for a Pioneer head unit, just mostly because there's just some things that I'm, somewhat disappointed by on this head unit. First things first is the 5-band graphic equalizer. It's not enough. Look, some cars are able to get away with just having a 5-band graphic equalizer where they don't really need too many adjustments. This is not one of them. This car does require quite a few adjustments. I got some reflections from the tweeters. Yeah, it just 5 bands is not going to cut it, and especially for $450, like, I can't get it to sound right, especially in the low end 250. I only get a 250 hertz slider. I need to be able to individually adjust from 80 hertz and below, because that is my subwoofer crossover point. Just can't do it here. As well as the sound controls, they're just difficult to get to, especially if you need to make an adjustment. If you're in CarPlay, there is no way to get to the sound, like any of the audio adjustments, without having to go through all of this, which you're not supposed to adjust things while driving. I know that, but if you're waiting at a red light and you would just like to make a quick adjustment, it's too many steps. This year, so I had actually said earlier, because it just says Apple CarPlay, and it doesn't say the track title when you're actually playing music through Apple CarPlay. It just says Apple CarPlay. I was under the impression that that was a CarPlay limitation. Well, turns out that's not actually true. Somebody else had in the one of the Ford Fusion Facebook groups, they posted a picture of their Pioneer install, and with their Pioneer, it actually said the song, the track title and artist on the upper display. So that's obviously a limitation from Alpine. Also, sometimes this display changes to whatever source you're listening to previously. So if I'm listening, instead of just saying Apple CarPlay all the time while I'm listening to CarPlay, sometimes it'll just show a radio station. I don't know. It's buggy. Second thing, this display is terrible, particularly in CarPlay. And I had mentioned that earlier, that it looks like it's like a viewing angle issue. It's not. It looks the same if you look at it dead on. It's just extremely washed out. I actually had a friend in the car yesterday, somebody who's not really into car audio, not a car person, but they have some understanding of technology, and they actually thought that this was a factory head unit from 2012 that I just adapted to work with CarPlay, and that's why it looked so washed out. And I had to explain to him, like, no, this is actually a brand new aftermarket head unit that cost $450, and that's how it looks. And he was actually really shocked. He's like, that looks terrible. I'm like, yes, I know, and that's why I'm returning it. Another thing that I actually just discovered, which is quite annoying. If you're using CarPlay, it turns off Bluetooth completely. So I can go to connection. Alright, well, see that? Grayed out. If I go to Bluetooth audio, this operation is not available at this time. It turns off Bluetooth completely. That is really annoying, because frequently, while I'm driving and there's other people in the car, I let other people DJ. They connect their phone to Bluetooth, and they can DJ while I still use CarPlay for navigation. I've never had any issue doing this with other head units. There's no reason why you should disable Bluetooth just to, just because you have a CarPlay device connected. There's no reason to disable Bluetooth. I don't know why they did that, but that's kind of annoying. Yeah, I'm just not thrilled for what this cost. I mean, like, all right, $450 is not a super high-end head unit, but it's not a cheap one either. For comparison, I'm actually going to show you the Atoto head unit that I have in my other car and show how other companies get things right, like how they do the user interface better. And I'll show you that now. Okay, so here we are in my Miata. This is an Atoto SA102. It was $150. It does CarPlay. Obviously, it is a budget head unit, but I did want to show you some of the things that they did that I wish some of the more mainstream manufacturers could do. For example, an SD card slot and a second USB port. Physical controls. I know a lot of the, like, Alpine and Kenwood and everything do physical controls, but it seems most of them are now moving to touch. Sorry, my camera focus is freaking out. Anyway, let me turn it on. No, I don't have my phone connected yet. But that's how fast it boots up. Right now I can play off the SD card. Yeah, I mean, it's fast, it's responsive, but more importantly, the menus, the interface is well laid out, it's simple to use. But here's something I wanted to show you. I just plugged in my phone. Okay, first of all, it's kind of hard to see because, like, the light is shining right on the screen, but look how much clearer and much more vivid that is than the Alpine. It just looks way better. There's absolutely no comparison. It looks really nice. It also doesn't wash out when the sun hits it. This is a convertible, so frequently you do have the sun shining, like, right on the screen, and I still never have a problem seeing it. And the Alpine, even though it's not a convertible, like, sometimes when the light was, like, shining at the screen, I wouldn't be able to barely see anything. Another thing, quick access to sound controls. See? 10-band equalizer instead of the 5 that Alpine gives you. But I could jump in and jump right back out. Why doesn't anyone else do that? So, I'm not saying that this is, like, equal in quality to an Alpine or a Pioneer, or even a low-end Alpine or Pioneer. I know it isn't. I know hardware-wise it definitely probably doesn't stack up, but in terms of software, like why couldn't they do this? Anyway, that's all I wanted to show you. So, this is actually a week after installing it. I wanted to give myself a little more time to get familiar with it before I actually reviewed it. I have to say, so far, I really like it. I'm very happy with it. It solves most of the issues that I had with the Alpine head unit. Let's go over them really quick. Number one was the screen. The screen is so much more vivid and bright. The colors are much better. It's much easier to read maps. Right now it's in actually night mode because I have the headlights on. But yeah, I can actually see, like, at a glance I could see the maps clearly. The screen is way better. There's no question. Interface is good. It's different than the Alpines, but I can't say really which one is better. This one seems to try to put everything onto one page, which is fine, whereas the Alpine had, like, apps that you can organize kind of the same way it was on your phone, and you'd have to scroll to different pages. This works fine. I can't say it's better or worse than the Alpine, but One thing I definitely do like is, like, one of my biggest complaints was, say when you're in CarPlay and I wanted to just get to the sound settings really quick. Before, it was you had to hit the home button, hit settings. Alright, well, right here I just hit this. That goes right to settings, and it also goes right to the favorites menu. Favorites menu, you can actually, any of the settings that you, it doesn't have to just be audio settings, it could be any setting that you want to put in the favorites menu, and it's right there, and then you have quick access to it. One of the other complaints I had also was that the fact that the Alpine only had a 5-band graphic equalizer. This has 13. Now you're going to see that it's mostly flat. Well, why was I, if I'm just going to set it mostly flat, why was I complaining about, only having a 5-band equalizer? Well, that's the other thing that actually I wasn't expecting. This thing sounds so much better. And I don't know why, but I installed in this car, I had just gotten it recently, so I installed the Alpine head unit, I installed NVX 5¼ inch components, and a sub and an amp that I had already owned. I did it all at the same time, and it never sounded right. Mostly it was the component speakers. I had like really harsh like mid-highs, like around the 3-4 kilohertz range. I had absolutely no mid-bass coming out of the door speakers, out of the out of the mid-bass woofers, and I could never figure it out. Obviously the first thing I was going to blame it on was the speakers. I had used the 6.5 inch version of those same speakers in my previous car, and they actually had pretty strong mid-bass, and I was actually overall very happy with them. Obviously, sometimes things change in different vehicles. I didn't expect it to be that much different, but I could not get any mid-bass. I had the 250 hertz band, which was the lowest band on the Alpine, turned all the way up. I had turned the high-pass filter off, and there was no mid-bass. And on top of that, the subwoofer just never sounded quite right, or at least it never sounded how I'd ever heard it before. It was muddy. So between the harsh highs, no bass, and the subwoofer just not sounding great, like, I just thought it was just like this car was just like acoustically a problem. Like, it was just some cars are difficult. What I was not expecting is that when I installed the Pioneer head unit, immediately on factory settings, before I touched anything, immediately I could tell its difference, and I'm very happy with the way it sounds. And I actually, I did need to drop the 3 kilohertz band and boost the highs a little bit, and aside from that, nothing else needed to be touched, or at least I don't feel like it really needs to be touched. It sounds very good the way it is. So if the Alpine had sounded right from the beginning, the 5-band equalizer probably would have been good enough. But I don't know why, it just did not sound right. But if I do feel like I need to make more minute, fine adjustments, I can do it. And it has a loudness setting, which the Alpine did not have. I do like to use the loudness setting because it just makes everything sound more full at lower volumes. It ramps down as you turn the volume up, so you're not just boosting the shit out of everything all the time. If you turn the volume up to where you're playing it fairly loud, that loudness effect actually goes away. The Alpine did not have a loudness feature, so basically all you heard when you're just driving around, with background music, all you heard was the tweeters, the mid and highs from the tweeters. You didn't hear anything else. What else could I say? Yes, that's the other thing. This display actually is far more useful now. Whereas before, when I was, say, playing music on Spotify, oh, that's right, it has its own built-in Spotify app, but if I were to just say use that through CarPlay, let's pick something else. It does actually display the song on the screen that is playing on Spotify, which is really useful because if I'm driving around having the whole screen dedicated to navigation, I can actually see what song is playing. That's the way it should have been from the beginning. I don't know why Alpine didn't implement that, but Pioneer did. yeah, I mean, everything else seems to work great on it. Like I said, it has its own built-in Spotify app, which works on Bluetooth and through USB. So if you don't have your phone connected through CarPlay and you're just connected through Bluetooth, you actually have access to the Spotify app, and it just basically gives you, access to your whole library, which is, something that you can't do with just like plain Bluetooth. Yeah, like this, honestly, I'm so much happier with this radio. It was $310. This was an open box to Crutchfield. That was the only thing I could get, but it was actually it seemed like it was never used. It seemed brand new. Just had to switch to my camera battery actually died. So I just switched to my phone to finish the video. Yeah, this was an open box from Crutchfield. It looked like it was brand new. It looked like it hadn't actually been used. It literally looked like somebody just opened the box and then closed it again. So no issues there. It was $310. Normally, I think the normal price is like $350. The Alpine, I bought it from ABT Electronics, and it was $450. So this is more than $100 less, and I honestly don't see what the Alpine brings to the table. So if you're on the fence about which one to buy, I personally feel that this one probably warrants stronger consideration over the Alpine, unless you have a specific reason to want the Alpine. But yeah, so hopefully that's the end of this journey, and I could just enjoy my radio and not have to experiment with different ones. So I think Pioneer, you did a great job as always, and hopefully you find this video helpful. Let me know if any questions in the comments.